The Miracles and Prophecies of St. John Bosco, a project of America Needs Fatima. I'm your host, Matthew Miller. Don Bosco's vision about the education of youth. St. John Bosco visited Rome in May of 1884, 4 years before his death. Just as he was about to leave the Eternal City, he had a letter written to the Oratory to relate a dream of the greatest importance. He had this dream on one of the nights that he had been feeling sicker than usual. He told Father John Lemoyne about it in several installments, ordering him to write it down. Father Lemoyne then redrafted the letter with only the passages that didn't deal with the Oratory superiors. When Father Michael Rua read it to them one evening after night prayers, the boys were enraptured, especially when the saint wrote that he had read into their consciences. After he returned home, there was a steady coming and going of boys in his room, all of them wanting to know if he had read into their consciences, and if so, what he had seen. This had two principal effects: the beginning of a reform in the life of the Oratory and the dismissal of some boys who were bad. The following is the complete account of the dream. "My most beloved children in Jesus Christ," Don Bosco began, "I'm always thinking of you, whether I am near you or far away. I have only one wish, and that is to see you happy in this world and eternity. It was this thought, this desire, that induced me to write you this letter. My dear boys, I feel the weight of being away from you and not seeing you. Not hearing you causes such a pain for me that you can hardly imagine it. That was why I would have liked to write you this letter a week ago, but all the things I had to do prevented me. Nevertheless, although there are now only a few days left before my return home, I want to anticipate my return among you, at least by means of a letter, not being able to do it in person. It is one who loves you tenderly in Jesus Christ who writes to you, and it is his duty to speak to you with the liberty of a father. You will allow me to do this, will you not? And you will be attentive and will put into practice what I am now about to tell you. I have told you that you're the one and constant thought of my mind. On one of these past evenings, I had gone to my room, and while I was getting ready for bed, I had begun to say the prayers that my dear mother had taught me. Just then, I don't know whether sleep overcame me or whether something distracted me, but it suddenly seemed that two former boys from the Oratory appeared before me. One of them came up to me, greeted me affectionately, and said, 'Oh, Don Bosco, do you recognize me?' 'Yes, I recognize you,' I answered. 'Do you still remember me?' the other asked. 'I remember you and all the others. You are Valfrey, and you attended the Oratory prior to 1870. Listen,' he said then, 'would you like to see the boys who were at the Oratory in my day?' 'Of course, show them to me,' I said. 'I'd be delighted.' So Valfrey showed me the boys, and they all looked the same. They were all the same height and age as I had known them then. I thought I was in the old Oratory at recreation time. It was a picture full of life, full of movement and merriment. Boys were running, skipping, and jumping. Some were playing leapfrog, and others were playing ball. In one corner there was a cluster of boys avidly listening to a priest who was telling a story. In another corner, a cleric was playing with a cluster of boys. People were singing and laughing everywhere, and there were clerics and priests with cheerful boys gathered around them. It was obvious that the utmost cordiality and familiarity existed between the boys and their superiors. I was mesmerized by that spectacle, and Valfrey said to me, 'You see, familiarity breeds affection, and affection breeds confidence. This is what opens up their hearts, and the boys reveal everything to their teachers, assistants, and superiors. They're frank in their confession and outside of it even, and docile and obedient to anything they're told to do by someone they know is honestly fond of them.' Just then, the other former pupil, who now had a white beard, came up to me and said, 'Don Bosco, would you now like to see and know the boys who live at the Oratory today?' This was Joseph Buzzetti. 'Yes,' I answered. 'It's already a month since I saw them last.' He pointed them out to me. I saw the Oratory and all of you at recreation, but I no longer heard the shouts of joy, singing, or the lively animation that I had just seen before. Sadly, boredom, weariness, sullenness, and diffidence were evident on the boys' faces and in their actions. It's true that I saw a good many of them running and playing, but I also saw a good many more who were standing alone and leaning against the pillars, prey to disquieting thoughts. Other boys had withdrawn from the general recreation to sit on the stairs, the corridors, or on the balconies overlooking the garden. Others strolled slowly in groups, talking softly among themselves, casting suspicious or malicious glances around them. Here and there someone smiled, but such smiles were accompanied by glances that not only aroused suspicion, but also the conviction that had St. Aloysius been in the company of those boys, he would have blushed. Even among the boys who were playing, I saw a few so listless that it was obvious that they found no pleasure in their games. "Have you seen your boys?" the past pupil asked. "Yes, I have seen them," I answered with a sigh. "How different they are today from what we were," the former pupil exclaimed. "Unfortunately, how listless they are at recreation. This causes the indifference that many show when they receive the holy sacraments. They are careless in their practices of piety in church and elsewhere, and that's why they're reluctant to live in an environment where divine providence showers all its bounty on their bodies, souls, and intellects. This is why many of them do not follow their vocation and are ungrateful to their superiors. And that's why they grow secretive and complain, while other deplorable things occur as a consequence." I see, I said. "But how can I restore the former vivacity, cheerfulness, and expansiveness of these dear children of mine?" "With charity." "With charity?" I asked. "But are not my boys loved enough? You know that I love them. You know how much I have suffered and endured for them during the course of some 40 years, and all that I am still suffering and enduring now. All the privations, humiliations, oppositions, and persecutions I have endured in order to provide them with food, shelter, teachers, and especially in order to ensure the salvation of their souls. I've done all I could and all I know for them, who represent the love of my whole life. I'm not referring to you." "Then to whom do you refer? To those who took my place? To the directors, prefects, teachers, and assistants? Don't you see how they spend the youthful years of their lives caring for those entrusted to them by divine providence? Don't you see that they're martyrs of their work and study?" "I see it, and I'm aware of it, but that's not enough. The best is still missing." "Well, what is it that's still missing?" "The boys must not only be loved, but they must know that they are loved." "Don't they realize that everything that is done for them is done out of love?" "No, and I repeat, it's not enough." "So then, what's needed?" I implored. "That they be helped to understand and love the things that are not so agreeable to them by participation in their childish pleasures. The things that are disagreeable to them are discipline, study, and self-mortification. They must learn these things with love and enthusiasm." "Please explain yourself more clearly," I pleaded. "Watch the boys at recreation." I watched them and then said, "What special thing is there to see?" "You don't see it, even though you've been educating boys for all these years? Look again. Where are our Salesians?" I looked and saw that there were only a few priests and clerics mingled with the boys, while even fewer participated in their games. The superiors were no longer the animating spirit at recreation. For the most part, they strolled up and down, talking among themselves, without paying any attention to what the boys were doing. Occasionally, someone did observe some wrongdoings, but they did nothing to correct the behavior. There were some Salesians who would have liked to mingle with the boys in their groups, but I saw that some of these youngsters were studiously trying to get away from their teachers and superiors. "Were you not always in the midst of the boys at the Oratory in the old days, especially at recreation time?" my friend asked. "Do you remember those wonderful years? It was a thing for rejoicing, like heaven, a period upon which we shall always look back lovingly, for we were guided by affection and held no secrets from you." "Ah, yes, certainly," I said. "Everything was delightful then for me as well, and the boys were all eager to come and talk to me. They were always eager for my advice so that they could put it into practice. But now I see that continuous audiences with others increased business matters, and my health prevented me from doing all this." "That is all very true, but if you're unable, why are the Salesians not imitating you? Why do you not insist and demand that the Salesians behave toward the boys the same way as you did?" "I talk myself hoarse, but unfortunately, they don't feel like shouldering the burdens as we once did. So by neglecting to do what costs them least, they lose what is most important and waste all their efforts thereby. They must learn to love what the boys love, so that the boys may love that which is dear to their superiors. In this way, their efforts will be light. The cause of the present change in the ways of the Oratory lies in the number of boys who do not confide in their superiors. Once their hearts were like an open book before their superiors, and they loved them and obeyed them promptly. But now they look on the superiors precisely as superiors, no longer as fathers, brothers, and friends. Therefore they fear them and love them little. If there is to be but one heart and soul, then for the love of Jesus, this fatal barrier of diffidence must be broken so heartfelt trust can take its place." "What must be done to break down this barrier?" I asked. And if you'd like to hear the answer to that question, please come back Wednesday for part 2 of this dream. Thank you all so much for watching. God bless you, and Our Lady keep you.